Have you been wanting to teach your dog to use a scratchboard, but you're not sure how to do it? Well, buckle up because this video is for you. Scratchboarding is a great way for dogs to file their own front nails instead of having to clip or grind them. I teach most of the dogs I work with to use a scratchboard, except older dogs who have arthritis, dogs with curly nails, or dogs whose feet turn out to the sides. This method is a good fit for dogs who aren't afraid of new objects and who aren't nervous to approach the person doing the training. It might not work for some pit bulls or bulldogs, as they're sometimes more likely to use their nose to push the board, but it's worth trying this method first before switching to a different plan. Before you begin, you'll need a scratchboard and a rug or carpet to prevent the board from slipping, as well as very high-value treats like dried liver or cheese. If you don't have a scratchboard and want to make your own, check out my video, How to Make a Scratchboard. Step 1 is teaching the cue, go get it. This lets your dog know that the game you'll be playing is that they are supposed to go and get the treat. This is a really important step if your dog has been taught leave it, or they may just sit and stare at you once you put treats under the board rather than trying to go get it. So to teach this, you're going to say, go get it, and then throw a treat far from you. Repeat this 10 times in different directions and at different distances. Step 2 is continuing go get it, but putting some of the treats under the board while the board is still up. After you've tossed the treats away 10 times, say go get it, and put a treat under the board without lowering the board. Let them eat the treat and then toss the next treat away with another go get it. Alternate putting a treat under the board and tossing away for another 10 repetitions. For step 3, now we're getting more into what we call shaping. Shaping is slowly rewarding closer and closer versions of the final behavior you want your dog to do, in this case, scratching the scratchboard. We're going to lower the board to a height where they can no longer fit their nose under the board to take it with their mouth, but it's not completely flat. We still want the treat to feel like it's possible to get. We're going to be looking for any movements the dog does that are on the way to scratching the board, like lifting a foot with the intention of pawing, pawing the air, pawing the carpet, slapping their paw on the board, or actually scratching the board. To reward any of these behaviors your dog gives you, say yes, and slowly lift the board so they can retrieve the treat. You can see here that I said yes and lifted the board for her to get the treat at the very first sign of a paw raise. Don't get greedy trying to immediately get full scratches, or your dog may quit the game because they won't understand what you want. As long as your dog isn't giving up on the game, let them try to work out the problem on their own, rather than talking or making movements to try to get them to scratch. Think of it like you're playing the hot and cold game, where you're giving them little clues to tell them they're getting warmer, but you aren't telling them the answer. Before we move on to the next step, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel so I can create more tutorials to help you and your dog succeed with nail trimming. Now, moving on to Step 4. Once your dog is consistently scratching the board 3 out of 5 times or more, start to reward all scratches that are on the board and only every other time your dog scratches the carpet or paws somewhere else. Here's some examples of how this might look in your training sessions. The more your dog learns that they get a treat every time they scratch the board, but only get a treat sometimes when they scratch somewhere else, the more likely they'll be to scratch the board. You can also give more treats and get excited when your dog scratches the board, and then only give one treat when they scratch somewhere else, so that scratching the board is a bigger reward. Don't let 2 wrong attempts pass without giving your dog a treat, or they may get confused and stop scratching. If your dog does get confused, go back to rewarding every scratching attempt before moving forward again to every other. At any point in the training, you can also occasionally reward your dog for other behaviors they offer, like sit or down, as they may be having trouble figuring out what to do and are getting frustrated. We all want to feel like we can win when we play a game, and giving our dogs participation points will keep them playing. Dogs learn at different rates, so you may be able to do all 5 steps in a day, or you may need to take a break during step 4 and restart the next day. This dog's a fast learner, so it's a good dog to show as a demonstration, but your dog may need a little more time. Step 5. Once your dog is consistently scratching the board almost every time, put the treat under the board, and when they scratch, instead of giving them the treat that's under the board, feed them a different treat from your hand. This step is what's called fading the lure, and the purpose of this step is so that over time, your dog will fully understand the game and scratch the board without needing a treat underneath it. Your dog may get confused and stop scratching, and if they do, you can drop back to step 4, where you give them the treat that's under the board before trying this step again. You'll know that they've mastered this step when, after they scratch, they look up at you expecting a treat. Now you can sit and relax without as much effort, and your dog will likely scratch as soon as the board comes out. If they forget, you can start your sessions with putting a treat under the board again and then redo step 5 after a few scratches. If you want to learn more about nail trimming and found this video helpful, like this video and subscribe to my channel, and let me know in the comments what else you'd like to learn about Scratchboards.